Chosen one. A powerful eye is fixed on you this week, and you can feel it even before you understand it. Something in the atmosphere around your life has shifted. Ordinary moments do not feel ordinary anymore. Small conversations feel loaded. Random delays feel intentional. Even your silence has weight to it. This is not because you are losing control. It is because heaven is allowing you to sense that you are being observed with purpose. You are not being watched for your destruction. No, you are being watched because your movement matters. Your decisions matter. Your response matters. There are seasons when you can drift unnoticed. And then there are seasons like this one, when every step seems to echo in the unseen realm. This is one of those weeks. You have spent enough time wondering why the pressure feels different now. It is different because your life is standing near a threshold. When a person carries no threat to darkness and no assignment from God, resistance remains shallow. But when your spirit begins to align, when your discernment sharpens, when your next act of obedience can change the direction of your path, attention increases. That eye fixed on you is not only the pressure of spiritual opposition, it is also the attention of God, who sees what is forming in you before the world can name it. He sees the hidden fatigue you never explain. He sees the discipline you keep building in private. He sees the part of you that almost gave up, yet still chose to stand. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms. Chapter 32, verse 8. I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my loving eye on you. That word is not casual. His eye on you means guidance. His eye on you means protection. His eye on you means correction before collapse. His eye on you means you are not abandoned in confusion. This week, you must stop interpreting every intense feeling as a sign of danger. Some of what you feel is the weight of divine focus. God is narrowing your vision so you stop scattering your energy. He is closing certain emotional doors so you stop begging for access to places that cannot carry your calling. He is showing you that being chosen does not always feel comfortable, but it always carries meaning. So do not shrink this week. Do not speak against yourself. Do not call yourself forgotten when heaven is watching closely. Stand taller, move cleaner, guard your words, protect your peace. Let your spirit stay awake. And if this message meets you at the exact moment you needed it, like this video, share it with someone who needs confirmation, subscribe for more, support this mission if you feel led, and comment 271 at the end as your sign that you know God's eye is on you. The reason the pressure is intensifying now is not because you are weak. It is because something in you is becoming harder to intimidate. What once distracted you no longer holds the same power. What once delayed you is starting to lose its grip. You may still feel tired, but you are no longer as easily deceived by appearances. And that is why this week feels so concentrated. The unseen battle sharpens whenever clarity begins to rise in a chosen life. Pressure often increases right before confusion breaks. Because darkness knows that once you see clearly, you will stop negotiating with what God already told you to outgrow. This is why even small things have felt unusually heavy. A text message can feel loaded. A delay can feel personal. A sudden wave of exhaustion can seem deeper than the moment itself. Yet beneath all of that, another reality is moving. God is exposing what drains you, what manipulates you, and what tries to train you to live in constant hesitation. The pressure is not sent to destroy your calling. It is revealing where your boundaries must become stronger and where your spirit must become steadier. This week is uncovering the weak gates, not to shame you, but to fortify you. As the prophet wrote in the scroll of Zechariah, chapter 4, verse 6, "Not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, says the Lord of hosts." That word matters now because you have been tempted to measure this season by your own emotional capacity. You have looked at your strength, your patience, your resources, and wondered whether they are enough for what is gathering around you. But this week is not asking you to survive by human force. It is teaching you to stand by the Spirit of God. There is a difference between being crushed and being pressed into alignment. There is a difference between random stress and holy refining. The fire feels similar at first, but the outcome reveals the source. What comes from darkness leaves you scattered. What God allows leaves you clearer, cleaner, and more discerning than before. So when the pressure rises, do not immediately assume you are losing ground. Look deeper. You may be standing in the exact place where God is stripping fear out of your reflexes. He is teaching you not to panic at intensity. He is teaching you not to abandon truth when emotion swells. He is teaching you that pressure can become revelation when your spirit stays yielded. This is why the eye fixed on you has not turned away. Heaven is not startled by this week. Heaven is using this week. And when it passes, you will not come out smaller. You will come out with a steadier mind, a sharper ear, and a stronger inner posture than before. Now the warning becomes sharper, because this is the point where many chosen people misread the moment they are living in. You can sense that something is off, yet the temptation is to delay, to soften the message, to tell yourself you still have more time before obedience becomes urgent. But this week is not casual. This week carries consequence. The eye fixed on you is not only watching what you endure, it is watching what you decide. There is a choice in front of you, and it may not look dramatic on the outside, but in the spirit it carries weight. One compromise can reopen doors you fought hard to close. One act of obedience can break patterns that have stalked you for years. That is why you must not treat this warning like background noise. Some warnings come to frighten, but this one comes to preserve. God does not expose danger to shame you. He reveals it so you can move with wisdom before the damage is done. You already know where the weak point is. You already know the habit, the attachment, the conversation, the environment, or the inner agreement that keeps trying to pull you backward. The warning is not vague because your spirit has already felt it. What you call a burden may actually be discernment. What you call discomfort may actually be mercy interrupting a path that would drain you. The voice of God thundered in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 30, verse 19. I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life, so that you and your children may live. This is the center of the moment. Choose life. Choose what keeps your spirit clear. Choose what protects your future self from avoidable regret. Choose what agrees with the God who has been guarding you even in seasons when you did not fully realize it. You do not need another sign to confirm what conviction has already told you. Delay has a cost. Rebellion has a cost. Numbness has a cost. But obedience carries a reward that often begins in silence long before it becomes visible in public. Heaven is showing you that the next step is not merely about comfort, it is about alignment. So draw the line clearly. Refuse the cycle that keeps presenting itself with a different face. Refuse the thought that says one small compromise does not matter. It matters because you matter. Your direction matters. Your next yes matters. And if you are receiving this warning with a willing spirit, comment "I choose life" as your witness beneath this message, not as a slogan, but as a declaration that you are refusing delay and stepping into alignment while the door of grace is still open. By now, you can see that the battle over your next step is not merely about events, people, or timing. It is about identity. The unseen conflict surrounding you this week is trying to push you into acting from anxiety instead of authority. from reaction instead of discernment, from wounded memory instead of spiritual clarity. That is why the pressure has felt personal. The enemy does not always attack your path directly. Often, the attack targets your sense of self so that you begin to forget who you are while standing in the very place where God is teaching you how to advance. If your identity blurs, your choices blur. If your inner posture weakens, your focus begins to scatter. This is why the battle has gathered around your mind, your emotions, and your confidence. You have noticed how quickly one moment of peace can be followed by a wave of doubt. One clear conviction can suddenly be challenged by old thoughts, old fears, or old voices. That is not random. Darkness studies patterns. It tries to reintroduce familiar weakness at the exact point where your spirit is becoming stronger. But this week is exposing that strategy. What once entered your mind unnoticed is now being revealed. What once shaped your reactions in secret is now being pulled into the light. This is not proof that you are failing. It is proof that you are becoming aware enough to fight differently. The apostle reminds us in his letter to the Corinthians, chapter 2, verse 16. But we have the mind of Christ. That truth cuts through the confusion. You do not have to think like fear. You do not have to interpret everything through suspicion, panic, or self-protection. You are not called to live as a prisoner of every emotional tremor. You have the mind of Christ, which means you have access to wisdom beyond impulse, peace beyond pressure, and discernment beyond appearances. The battle over your next step is fierce because your next step carries consequence. But the greater reality is that God has not left you defenseless inside your own thoughts. He has given you a higher pattern to live by. So when the battle intensifies, return to what is true. When accusation rises, return to what is true. When the enemy tries to make you feel small, delayed, forgotten, or disqualified, return again to what is true. You are not fighting to become chosen. You are fighting from the reality that you already are. That changes everything. It means your obedience is not a desperate attempt to earn God's attention. It is the response of someone who already carries heaven's mark. This week, hold your ground internally before you move externally. Let your mind stay submitted, your spirit stay alert, and your identity stay anchored. The battle is real, but so is the authority growing within you, and that authority is preparing you for the step ahead. Now you arrive at the point where watching turns into confirmation. The eye fixed on you this week has not been fixed on you to intimidate you into hiding. It has been fixed on you because heaven is marking a transition. You are not the same person who entered this week carrying uncertainty in your chest and questions in your mind. Something in you has settled. Something in you has awakened. The pressure that once tried to bend your posture has instead taught you how to stand. The warning that once felt heavy has become clarity. The battle that tried to blur your identity has revealed just how much authority God has already been building within you. This is how victory often begins. It does not always begin with applause, public proof, or immediate celebration. It begins with inward agreement. It begins when your spirit stops arguing with what God has shown you. It begins when you stop asking permission from fear and start moving with holy confidence. The world may not yet understand what shifted in you, but the unseen realm does. Darkness recognizes when access is being revoked. Confusion recognizes when its voice is no longer welcome. Delay recognizes when you have stopped bowing to hesitation. This week, your authority becomes visible first in what you refuse, then in how you proceed, according to what is revealed in the book of Proverbs, chapter 4, verse 18. The path of the righteous is like the morning sun, shining ever brighter till the full light of day. Hold that word closely, because it tells you that your path is not meant to grow dimmer as you obey. It grows brighter. It may begin quietly, like the first light at dawn, but it does not remain faint. God does not bring you through pressure, warning, and battle merely to leave you uncertain at the end. He brings you through so your direction becomes illuminated. He brings you through so your next step carries peace instead of panic. He brings you through so you no longer confuse spiritual maturity with passivity. You are not being trained to shrink. You are being trained to move with light. So step forward with the understanding that what is on you now did not come from human approval. It came through endurance, discernment, surrender, and the steady hand of God. Let this week close with your spirit aligned, your focus guarded, and your feet planted on what heaven has made clear. You have been watched, warned, refined, and established. That is why you do not leave this moment timid. You leave it marked. And if this word bears witness in your spirit, comment 618 below as your sign that you are stepping forward under God's covering and into the brighter path set before you. And as this word settles into your spirit, let it rest there the way dawn rests on a field that survived the longest night, soft, certain, and full of promise. If this message reached you where your soul was quietly aching, let your response be like placing a small flame in a window so another wandering heart can see that morning is still possible. If someone you love is walking through a heavy week, share this with them the way you would hand a lantern to a traveler crossing a dark road. Leave a comment below as a stone set on the path, a quiet marker that says you stood here, you heard, and you chose to keep walking. Subscribe if this is a well your spirit returns to for living water when the world around you feels dry. And if your heart is moved, to donate. Let it be like planting bread in a season of famine, trusting that what is released in faith becomes strength, light, and shelter for someone you may never meet, but heaven has already seen.